How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Let's talk a little MVP talk. Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, the two that I personally think are your top two candidates right now. If you want to throw in Jonathan Taylor the way that guy played this season, sure, go ahead. Honestly, with the schedule Tom Brady had this year, I still remember walking into this season with fantasy football. I was like, you know what? You know who we're drafting this year? Everybody in the NFC South, because they just had an absolute cupcake schedule of a season. Not to mention, I think, if you look at the weaknesses of the Packers and the Bengals, Packers being their wide receiver corps, if you will, still got Devontae Adams, Bengals being our offensive line. Tom Brady didn't really have a weakness in either one of those. I sent multiple Pro Bowlers multiple O-linemen to the Pro Bowl, and they may or may not have had Chris Godwin, Evans, Antonio Brown, and Gronk to work with throughout this season. So I think it comes down to those two and the big impact they had in their team. So let's talk about stats. Burrow, 70.4% completion percentage, led the league. 8.9 yards per attempt, led the league. Led the league, and by the way, a number that even Aaron Rodgers has only surpassed once in his career. 8.9 yards per attempt. That's how good of a season Burrow just had. 4,600, a little over 4,600 yards. He had 34 touchdowns and 14 INTs. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, 68.6% completion percentage. He went out there 3,977 passing yards this season, 35 touchdowns, and an incredible 4 interceptions thrown on the season. This man is in another league when it comes to taking care of the football, and 7.8 yards per attempt. If you want to throw that in there, passer rating's pretty similar this season. But I think, again, there's a couple things you talk about with these two players and the value they hold to their team. And when it comes to the MVP, it ain't just about stats. You also talk about how much did these players impact their team and how much of an impact did they have on winning games, making playoffs. And could they have done that on another team? Could another player have came in that exact same position and put up those numbers? And the two things you look at and argue back and forth with these two teams is, first of all, Aaron Rodgers and his weapon. You have Devontae Adams, absolute stud, best wide receiver quarterback connection in the league right now. I don't think there's much of a debate about it. But after that, things kind of trickle downhill from a weapon standpoint in Green Bay. Meanwhile, Cincinnati, you got T. Higgins, you got Jamar Chase, you got Tyler Boyd. Jamar Chase, kind of that, he's Joe Burrow's version of he's Joe Burrow's Devontae Adams, if you will, in his situation. They just aren't on that same chemistry level yet. They're working to get there, still not on that level yet. And then you still have T. Higgins, who I think's honestly a bona fide number one for a lot of teams. And you can say the same about Tyler Boyd, who is an elite slot receiver in this league. The Bengals have 3 really good weapons out wide to work with. And that does, obviously, when you got that kind of talent out there, it makes your job easier as a quarterback. Let's not pretend it does it. But you still have to put it the numbers. You still have to throw the ball to these guys. You still have to complete the ball. You still have to move the football down the field. That all matters. That's the debate there, though, I think you look at for Rodgers and what he had to work with compared to Burrow. And you look at Joe Burrow, though, and you say, hey, this man was sacked 51 times this season. Aaron Rodgers was sacked 27 times, nearly half. And does it get talked about enough? I don't think it does. In a league where it's all about the quarterback, a lot of the times it's all about the offensive line. How many times have we heard in the past 10 years, oh, Tom Brady's starting off really slow. What's wrong with the New England Patriots? What's wrong with the Green Bay Packers? 4 weeks into the season, is Aaron Rodgers losing it? How many times have we heard that? And you know what is almost always the number one common denominator in those situations? The offensive line was struggling. The quarterback did not have time to get the football off. He was getting hit a lot. He was getting pressured a lot, and they were struggling. But you got 4 or 5 weeks in the season. Those offensive lines started to gel, started to play better, and all of a sudden, he got protected, and those guys went on to have MVP caliber seasons the rest of the way. It's huge. It is absolutely huge how important the offensive line is. I seen something online the other day about saying, hey, let's make this clear here. Let's clear this up. If Aaron Rodgers played on the Bengals right now, he would be doing just as good, if not better, with these Bengals this season. As opposed to Joe Burrow going to the Packers, where he might do just as good, but won't do better, might do worse. And I can't say how much that I just don't agree with that. Here's my issue with that. Rodgers, 38 years old. If this was 25-year-old Rodgers, 26, 27, absolutely. He proved that he could do what Joe Burrow's doing, if not better, at that age. He's 38 years old now. You need to have a lot of mobility. And again, the youth taking all those shots makes a big difference to be doing what Joe Burrow did this season. Not to mention, Joe Burrow had 2.4 seconds per pass to throw the football this season. Aaron Rodgers had 2.3 seconds to throw the football this season. That is not a big gap. In other words, Burrow was sacked twice as much and was heavily pressured with just as much time to pretty much throw the football. That's a big difference. And, I mean, let's look at 2018. The last time Aaron Rodgers was sacked over 45 times. In 2018, he was sacked 49 times. Packers had a 6-9-1 record under Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers would go on to throw for 4,400 yards. He'd complete a little over 62% of his passes. He'd have 22 touchdowns, 2 INTs. Again, ridiculous, 2 INTs. This guy, he's on another level with it. And 4,400 passing yards. When you take away the takeaways, minus that, Rodgers or Burrow had a better season. Again. And I know I've heard this before. Well, the Packers had a lot wrong with them in 2018. The Bengals won 6 games in the last 2 seasons going to this one. I mean, again, if you want to go play that game, we can go back 2015 when Rodgers threw for 3,800 yards. He had 31 touchdowns, 8 INTs. Again, the numbers don't equate. They don't. And I just, looking at it from a sack perspective, I don't think there's another quarterback in this league this season that does what Joe Burrow does. You call that MVP caliber. Not to mention, we can talk about the strength of schedule if you want. Now, Green Bay, a little different than other teams because they did end up playing the AFC North this season. They did have to go up against the AFC North. Packers ended up playing 7 teams with a 500 above record. Bengals are going to play 9 teams with a 500 above record. I think the Bengals ended the season 13 of their 17 games against teams that won 7 or more games. They had a tough schedule. But they did lose to the New York Jets and the Chicago Bears. And if we didn't know now, Aaron Rodgers happens to own Chicago Bears. Aaron Rodgers go 13-2 this season. Aaron Rodgers won all the games he should have. They lost the game to the Saints to start the season, and they lost the game to the Vikings later in the season, a division rival. Both teams had solid seasons. And I think one of the things that will stick out here, and we have to remember, is you cannot have recency bias. And until this Ravens and Chiefs game, I don't think we're talking about Joe Burrow being this much into the MVP conversation. I mean, sure, you could have said top 5, maybe top 10, but I don't think he's in the top 2 conversation. You have to look at a full product of the season. Bengals started the season where they kind of shot themselves in the foot. They kind of shot themselves in the foot a lot. I think this is a really, really hot topic right now. If the Bengals didn't beat themselves this season, you take away probably 5, maybe 6 of those interceptions. Might be more. You have to go back and look. Of Joe Burrow just being passes that his receivers flat out dropped and went into the hands of the other team. Or his receivers flat out dropped would have been 70-yard touchdowns. Jamar Chase did that a couple times this season. T. Higgins too. But when his receivers started catching the football, that was what stood out in these last couple games. When his receivers started catching the football, look at the numbers he put up. That was a big difference here. It was an all-around team thing. And again, you could say, though, hey, well, when his receivers started making him big plays, he started to put them numbers up. And it's like, well, again, maybe if he didn't have those weapons in Green Bay, it's a different story. I think at the end of the day, you look and say, hey, you lost to Chicago. I think there was conservative play calling. I don't think the voters care, though. At the end of the day, you look and say, what did the quarterback do? There was conservative play calling that led to the Bengals having, and what will glare for me or stand out for me this season is you lose to the New York Jets and you lost to the Chicago Bears. You could have been 12-4. And then you're talking really good numbers. And you're also talking, sure, that was conservative. You got to call it how it is, though. The Bengals struggled on 3rd and short a lot beginning of this season, the first half of this season. Obvious passing downs. Question of play calling all you want. Do what you want. Joe Burrow's the quarterback. Why didn't he audible to a play to get one of his receivers the ball quickly? Why didn't he find a ball or find a quick outlet? That was an area the Bengals struggled with this season. Everyone has their flaws, though. It happens. I think that sticks out for a full product or a full season overview, though. I think Joe Burrow substantially improved throughout the season when he got his health back. I think he should win comeback player of the year. The fact that he's not favored to win comeback player of the year is kind of laughable right now. I think he should be winning comeback player of the year. I do think, though, he becomes a favorite to win the MVP going forward. I think that this is Aaron Rodgers' year, though. I really do. I think you don't look enough Or they don't really look, you can't either, right? You're just kind of assuming what would he do behind a different offensive line. They don't look enough into that. And if you look at a pure performance on the field this season, without judging offensive lines, talent, or whatever, Aaron Rodgers just had an outstanding season, a second outstanding season. And I think, again, he wins the MVP this season. I think Joe Burrow puts up a good fight. I think he finishes second. I do. But I think this is going to be Rodgers' MVP still. Joe Burrow's got a bright future, though. As Bengals fans, there is nothing to be upset. This is this guy's first full season in the league. And we're talking about him in the conversation with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Nothing to be upset about. Love you guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.